The Viewpoint, 8 to 10 p.m. Flipping conventional wisdom on its head. You are listening to Ngaba Mabece on SAFM.
2016, good evening to you. Our guest for the hashtag Tuesday Takeover, this the 22nd of October, Mr. Ryan Enslin. Good evening, brother. How are you?
Hey, Nkaba, well, how are you, brother?
I'm well.
Good,
What's going on?
No,
Where have you been? The first time I saw you was last month by chance. You were very dapperly dressed and your energy brought me to invite you over. And Here you are. It's the third time we are meeting and I'm looking forward to what you have to share with our listeners.
It is indeed the third time, and we've had some many really interesting conversations, and I've been inspired by our conversations, particularly around the intentionality with life and how we live our lives and what we do with our lives to bring us peace and joy. And I think that's the point of connection that you and I had, speaking about this metamorphosis that's taken place in my life, you know.
Share it.
Yeah, I'm a trained and qualified chartered accountant. In early 2000s, I qualified as a CA, started working in the profession, stayed on in the profession, but soon realized it really wasn't for me. But I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I just knew that I couldn't do it. I couldn't stay in the profession like that. And through various things that have happened through my life, through having an open spirit, I think, to things, it has taken me down various paths, some of them less friendly than others, but it's taken me to a place of, I would almost say, awakening, to understand that, you know, if we want a certain life, if we want a certain quality of life, we need to listen to that inner voice that speaks to passion, that inner voice that speaks to that thing that gets you up in the morning. I was up at 3 o'clock this morning. I couldn't sleep anymore. I was just so excited for what we're doing today. I'd been lying in bed since 2:30. I was wide awake. It's that thing that wakes you up, that says, let's get going now, as opposed to waking up with this sense of fear and dread. Oh, I've got to get through this today. And it's finding that and finding that space and tapping into that space and crafting a life for yourself that flows from that space of passion.
Where does this all come from? What happened? How did what happen? You're an accountant. You are a chartered accountant at that. I mean, that's a respected profession the world over, which commands respect by virtue of you telling people you're a chartered accountant. And it has a certain comfort that comes with that once the hard yards are done, obviously. But clearly that wasn't you suggest.
No, not at all. I think, you know, I say to people, there's probably many things in life that we can do. I could probably come to your house and mow your lawn pretty well. Doesn't mean I should take up a job in lawn service, you know. And that's what I realized with the accounting. My brain can do that, and my brain actually enjoys the art of accounting. I think there's an art to accounting. But it didn't fulfill my soul, and I think we know this. We know that our soul is unfulfilled at certain levels, and that is... We need to listen to that. And I think all too often what happens in life is we get ourselves set up in a career, we establish a cost base with a house and a car, and then we have children and we get married and have children, wherever you do it. And then we're on this hamster wheel. We're on this hamster wheel, which we then find very difficult to get off, to go and follow those passions, you know. And that's what I'm wanting to look at tonight, and what we discuss is, with intentionality comes a journey. And
how did you get off the hamster wheel, as it were?
How did I get off the hamster wheel? I just kept my cost base very low. And had a very inquisitive mind. I started doing some work with a PR agency and started watching how they did their marketing activities. If they did this, they got that result. If they wanted that result, they did this. And I learned how that game worked, and that made sense to me. How to talk to an audience, how to talk to people who are interested in your product, how to identify which people are interested in the service or product that you're selling or offering. And then tailoring campaigns and messaging, whether it be in articles that I write or in content that I create. I do photography and videography, as well as the journalism. It's then creating those spaces to go and discover those passions, and that's been the joy of my life. That's been the joy of this rebirth almost, to go and discover stories that touch and tap into this passion that I've discovered sits deep within my soul.
I mean, I would imagine there are many people who are doing what they can, and they might be doing it pretty well, to use your lawnmower example. But it doesn't necessarily mean they actually know what they love to do or who they are. And I suppose something has to give at some point, whatever that something is. How would you engage somebody who says, well, am I doing what I'm destined to be doing? In other words, how does one navigate oneself or ask questions or move in such a way that they probe their innermost self to get to a position where they can say, this is probably my purpose, or far aligned with who at my core I am, to get to a point where they're getting up at 3 a.m. because they know they need to mission on, as opposed to wake up at 8 and snooze until 9 before they get up?
Sure. I think, we don't know from day one what our purpose is. I don't think. Some people do, some people don't. I think you've got to follow those passions of your heart. And for me, I always had an interest in photography. I used to buy books and try to understand photography, how to do photography from books, and get completely frustrated because I would then go and buy the camera and then take a picture of whatever I was taking a picture of, and I look at it and it just didn't come out right. But I was following a passion to analyze and to see that beauty and try capture it. And by doing that and then realizing that my process wasn't working, I was then embarking upon a journey to learn. And then that journey to learn, you hone that skill. And in honing that skill, you delve deeper into what your skills and your passion really is. And that ultimately takes you to your purpose, I believe.
So where are you now? What's happening? What's keeping Ryan away? What woke you up at 2:30 this morning?
What we're doing right now.
And that lends itself to what? The greater version of who you are now?
Yeah. So at the moment, I operate as a freelance travel writer. I write travel stories, lifestyle stories, stories about art for South African publications and some international publications. I also create content for clients, so hotels, lodges, things like that. Video content. We'll see some of the content this evening as we go through the conversations, and that's what keeps me going. That's what talks to my soul. The ability for me to go and engage with people, talk to people, and discover their story. And in discovering their story, I discover a little bit more about my story.
Okay, I'm going to ask you what probably might be a rather facetious question, but tell me an interesting story. Gavin Stansfield, I hope he's listening. Stansfield, some saw attorneys now, he's the proprietor there. When I was doing my articles in 2010 and I was assigned to him, he'd say, "Mabetse, next time I see you, you must walk in and tell me a useless but interesting story. Something that I'll never do beyond hearing in my life, but it will be interesting." So here I was Googling odd facts about nothing really, and it actually bonded me to him.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question about you though. Tell us something that is interesting, something where when I hear it I'll be like, or aha, like something you've done or experienced or anything in line with this new version of Ryan Enslin is.
Okay, well, I'm going to do one better than tell you one. I'm going to tell you four.
All right.
And that's what the rest of the show is about.
Oh,
so the show is about having tapped into that passion, finding interesting stories and what those stories mean. So these are not just traditional travel pieces of I went traveling to the Kruger Park and I found this. These experiences from putting myself out into these spaces to go and find these travel stories, having gone and find really interesting experiences that have gone, in my mind, I've gone, oh, wow, check at that. Okay. And there's 4 of them coming this evening.
There are 4 of those coming up. Fantastic. And I hope you can convince even one person listening to literally follow their identity, the identity that they were born to fulfill in this lifetime for themselves. 2024 is the time. Yeah, you've heard it here on SAFM, The Viewpoint. This is Ngaba Mabece making my way out for Mr. Ryan Enslin, who is going to tell you 4 stories over the course of the next 35 to 40 minutes. So please stay tuned, show your love and respect by dialing in and participating in the story. You know the number to dial, but I'll repeat, 086 000 2032, and participate in the WhatsApp facility. That's a voice note or a text, 0614 104 107. I'm out. We'll chat again and be in each other's company on the other side of this.
Tuesday Takeover on The Viewpoint. You are listening to Ngaba Mabece on SAFM.
Hi, I'm Ryan Enslin, and your Tuesday Takeover guest this evening. I have a number of guests this evening to share with you, but I will start with Judith Barnes from Motsumai Tourism. You can join the conversation by calling us on 086 000 2032 or send us a voice note on 0614 104 107. Please do, however, keep them to 1 minute. Judith, do I have you on the phone?
You do. Good evening,
Well,
Ryan. How are you?
Good to hear from you. I'm well, thank you. Judith joins us this evening from Matsumai Tourism, and I had a really interesting experience the other day in the bush. So this evening we're talking about interesting experiences that I've had, and the first one talks to a time that I spent in the Kruger National Park, and I really found an interesting experience there. I spent some time at a camp called the Kruger Untamed Satara Plains Camp. The camp is a seasonal luxury tented camp concession nestled in the heart of the Kruger, about an hour's drive from Satara Rest Camp. Operating only during winter, the camp prioritizes sustainability in its operation as it touches the land lightly. As anyone who's familiar with the park will know, this is lion country, and this is where my story begins. I joined fellow guest David Gerber from the US and went tracking lions with guide Renius Mchlongu. I had an experience second to none. Let me set the scene. The previous evening, while on a game drive, we had taken in a pride of 12 lions along a river, and it was within these lion tracks that we set off the next morning. We stood in these lion tracks, and Renius read these tracks. The energy was tangible, and my excitement levels were off the charts. As Renius examined the tracks, we moved deep into the heart of the bush. If you have a look at my IG account, my Instagram account, you will see that earlier today I shared a reel that I made of this trekking experience with David. Going forward, I'm not sure that a mere game drive will be enough for me after having been trekking on foot. Judith, set the scene for us. The Kruger Satara Plains Camp is nestled in the heart of a very special concession of the park.
Yes, that's true. With us being a seasonal camp, and because we stayed the footprint so lightly in the Kruger National Park, it exposed us to a part of the park that, you couldn't put a traditional product on. So where we are located, and we've got the two camps, like you said, you visited Satara with us. We've got the second one in Chokwan. So it's two parts of the park that has never been stayed in before. And it just exposes our guests a different part of landscape, a different kind of animal,
Sure.
Very different setting. And it's quite something being in that space where nobody else has ever stayed in before.
Yeah.
And I think the magic is in the location, that part of lion country where we found ourselves in when you had that wonderful experience.
Yeah.
It's just something that brings you back to nature.
Magic really is the word, Judith. I would agree with you. That experience of tracking a lion on foot in the Kruger with Renius was really one for the books. It's one of those experiences, I think, in life that take you and push your expectation of similar things to another level. So that's why I said earlier, I don't think game drives are going to be sufficient for me anymore. It's now going to need to be tracking and walking on foot. It's that connection to the land, Tell me, why did you guys decide then to partner with Renius and Alex van der Heever from World Trackers at Satara Camp?
I think our seasonal camps is such a unique blend of the partnerships. Besides World Trackers, which is Alex and Renius and Chiefs mobile tented camps, and then Matsumai coming together. But specifically talking about Renius and Alex, I mean, besides that they give the trackers that go through the academy this opportunity to get that first-hand practical experience, to collaborate with the likes of Renius, who is one of the very last traditional Shangaan trackers, and who is, not only has he 42 years of experience, but one of only 9 trackers in South Africa that has that certified NQF level 4. It was a perfect opportunity to go in with somebody of that experience that can teach you so much. And as you yourself experienced, and our guest David that you mentioned, it's a life-changing experience to be so personal with nature. You don't get closer to nature and more personal than when you're on that tracking experience. You learn to read that animal. Every move means something. It's not just a walk in the bush. It's to learn to read the bush, read the animals, see the habits, and it's something very, very special that few people have experienced.
Indeed, that connection, that tangible, I'm going to come back to that word connection again, that tangible connection to the land, placing your feet on the land as you're walking through the same space that these animals it's their space that you're in, is quite something. David was one example of a guest who's enjoyed an experience there. Are there any other guest experiences that you come to mind?
I think whether you're sitting in the vehicle, and each person's experience is so personal and so unique because, let's face it, everybody's fear levels when they enter a place like the Kruger National Park can be on a different level.
Yeah.
And for some people to sit in one of those open safari vehicles and, at an elevated view, see the animals, or whether you sit outside on your tent, if I had to think of some of our guests who have that little sense of it might be a little bit overwhelming. This is something new, something different. And one of the top tips somebody gave was, just sit on your patio where you're safe. You're in a safe environment, but listen. And those sounds that you think might overwhelm you, once you start uncovering it, it becomes a connection to nature rather than something overwhelming.
Sure.
So I would say it's a very personal experience, whether you prefer a safari drive, a game drive, or a walking safari. And both of them hold a very unique attribute. Or whether you choose to stay and experience the bird calls, the sunrises, the animal calls right from the comfort of your tent.
Yes, and it was a king-size bed in that tent, correct? King-size bed.
Yes, correct.
Ultimate luxury.
Just because you go camping doesn't mean you have to rub it.
No, don't have to. Not at all. I really love my nightly shower, that warm water there in the middle of the African bush and under 1 billion plus stars. Speak to us a little bit about the logistics of running a camp like this, the seasonal camp, Judith.
Yeah, I think that's such an important factor. Like I've mentioned, because we're seasonal and we're 100% committed to the sustainability of our camps. We've now had our audits. I think we've just gotten the 600% audit. So we set ourselves at a very high standard. And with that comes operating in that environment. So, to have that hot shower under the stars, like you said, might seem like a simple task. But everything we do, our showers are manually fed, which means we heat them up with the South African designed donkeys, for those who will still recall those.
Yes, I do.
So with fire, we heat the water, we manually fill those showers, but just because we do that doesn't mean that it's short of any form of luxury. In
100%.
fact, I think it attributes to the whole experience. And, if you follow the journey from what it takes to get the water to camp, because remember, being 100% sustainable, we don't lay water pipes, so we bring the water in. We fill those showers with buckets, and not only in being environmentally friendly, but creating jobs in the process is equally important to us.
Sure. Quickly, lastly, Judith, tell me, you've got 1 minute left. I could speak to you for the whole evening. What other left-of-centre developments do you guys at Matsumai possibly have up your tourism sleeve that you could share with me?
I literally could speak to you all night. But I think one of our most exciting things that's coming up is part of the Untamed family, which is our seasonal camp that's coming to the Knysna Forests, hopefully in 2025. So not too much to say about it yet, but I think that's the one that's up our sleeves that's coming quite soon, and something quite exciting to look out for. It's also a seasonal camp. And like I said, in an unexplored part of the Knysna Forest. So something quite exciting coming to the garden route.
Well, if Satara Plains Camp is anything to go by, I'm sure it's going to be something rather remarkable. Judy, thank you for your time, and I hope to see you on the plains of Satara again soon.
Absolutely looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Tuesday Takeover on The Viewpoint. You are listening to Nqaba Mapete on SAFM.
Great. Staying with the theme of the bush, I recently, in my second story, had another interesting experience in the bush, and this time one of the culinary sort. I spent some time up at Mondoro Safari Lodge and Villa in the heart of the Valgevonden Game Reserve in the Waterberg, photographing a new foodie collaboration. And this is where the next story plays out. Chef Luc Del Roberts is celebrated for his innovative approach to cuisine, as evidenced by a variety of awards and international recognition. In fact, one of his Cape Town restaurants, Salon, has just won Africa's Best New Restaurant at the World Culinary Awards last week. Since opening the Test Kitchen in Cape Town in 2010, Chef Luc has continued to push culinary boundaries. Ask anyone who has spent time either in the Potluck Club, there's one here in Joburg and one in Cape Town, the Short Market Club here in Joburg, or Salon in Cape Town. Today, Chef Luke applies his skills honed in the kitchens of Switzerland and England and has taken them to the bush at Mondoro, as fine dining now meets your bush experience. Chef Luke, I'm sure many listeners have spent time in one of your many restaurants. Speak to us briefly about your culinary inspiration. Where do you draw from to create the array of dining experiences on offer?
So, hi, how are you doing?
Well, and you, Chef Luke?
Good, very well, thank you. I draw from everything to inspire myself. I think it can be, obviously the deep root of inspiration as a chef is the seasonality of ingredients.
Sure.
So often that will be the kind of foundation for my inspiration of what I'm working with. But then in doing so, there might be something that I stumble across, in the Potluck Club or in other restaurant of mine. Someone might walk in with some globe artichokes, and then that will spawn a whole range of ideas across all the restaurants. And then obviously, things like working in Mondoro with the natural garden, the organic gardens they've got there.
Yeah.
There's a big drive on, that kind of inspiration as well.
Yeah. Chef Luke, knowing your brand intimately, I see many similarities in the ethos between yourself and the food you make across your restaurants and Mondoro Safari Lodge. Personally, I think bringing fine dining to the bush is pure genius. What attracted you to this collaboration, and how long will we get to enjoy Luke Del Roberts in the Waterberg?
Well, I think that the synergy between what is happening on the farm in terms of the produce that is being reared and grown there, and what's happening on the table is beautiful.
Yeah.
I felt after doing a recce there, we always do recces before we do, any projects. We do recces and we get to know the people. And I was fortunate enough to meet Fritz, Renell, Alti,
From Mondoro.
We had a fantastic, rapport with each other, and I think if that feels good at the beginning, then there's longevity and the potential to grow and expand and do better.
Yeah, you referenced then the farm that Mondoro operates right next door to the reserve, where they grow a lot of this fresh produce.
Platzbank, yeah.
Yes,
correct.
100%. Great. Chef Luke, in preparing for this interview, I pulled out some of the menus from the launch, which I photographed, and was fondly reminded of delights including local braised lamb pithava, duck and citrus salad, and the king clip and leek Wellington. Speak to us not only about curating, but delivering one of your menus, especially the logistics of being out in the bush, and how large is your team at any one time?
So we send 3 chefs in from my stable any one time for the duration of 5 months. So and then we have a manager that's on the floor for 2 weeks of each month. So we flooded the operation with skill and additional labor. And then now going into the next period, we've hired 2 people from my stable as well that will be working there. We're looking to hire 1 or 2 others in the kitchen. So there's been a big push on developing the hands on the ground. We've had a very strong training period, and then we've now handed over to hands on the ground, and we'll continue to monitor that on a monthly basis. Coming up, myself, my execs will come up and ensure that the quality is exceptional going forward,
I would imagine that training is quite important for the local staff who are exposed to this opportunity. I mean, we don't often see fine dining in the bush. Is the training and the upskilling of local staff an important part of what you do as Luke Del Roberts?
Absolutely. I mean, you can see it in the test kitchen fledglings. We've got a restaurant devoted to upskilling, people from, previously disadvantaged backgrounds or unskilled people. That is a very, very important part of our ethos as a company.
Yeah, okay. When I was at the lodge, plans were afoot for an upgrade on the legendary Boma night and a new harvest table lunch service. How is the collab unfolding at the moment?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going back up there this Sunday, and we're going to do a Boma. I'm actually working. We've been working hard on the Boma, doing beautiful braises, oxtail, lamb shank braises, beautiful homemade brookies that is actually laminated bread with the cheese and pickle inside the laminates. So the Boma is designed to be very much a rustic, outdoor fire food kind of menu.
Yeah.
Whereas the a la carte or the set menus we do inside are much more fine dining. So if you stay for 3 days, you'll get a couple of menus in the restaurant, and then you'll have a Boma night. So you get the best of both worlds. And then at lunchtime, we've got the harvest table that we run, which is really a healthy, themed kind of harvest table full of beautiful, delicious quiches and salads and, the kind of stuff you'd expect to see in an Ottolenghi restaurant in London.
Yeah. I think that's what really appealed to me about this collab, Chef Luke, was the fact that people coming to a place like Mandora would be coming to appreciate our natural beauty, our wildlife, but now they're being exposed and their senses enhanced on a different level by the fine dining experience. Is this a new thing for you, taking fine dining to the bush, or have you done this before?
I haven't taken it to the bush before. I've taken it to resorts in Mauritius and ski resorts in Verbier in Switzerland. I've done various different pop-ups and stuff like that over the years, but it's the first time in the South African bush.
Yeah, okay. And would you care to share any insights into the new menus possibly being developed for the Mandora collaboration?
We're going to hit that this week because we're going up at the end of the week. It's obviously a seasonal change, so we'll be lightening a lot, doing a lot more dressings, a lot more salsas, some beautiful Latino influences on the food, some lovely Asian influences, just lightening it all up for summer,
Yeah. So maybe just give us an idea, Luke, if I come across to Mandora, what's my guest experience likely to be with this heightened food experience?
Well, I think what you're getting is you're arriving at a beautiful lodge, which is where the people are stunning. They want you to have a fantastic time, and they genuinely want that. So you make friends when you go there. You make friends with the staff because they're so kind and so accommodating. But you get a highly efficient service, and you get, cutting edge fine dining food, which is a lovely, when you're on a resort or in the bush, the food plays such an important part in the whole experience,
Yeah. Are we likely to see any of your chefs out on the game drives? We often have breakfast in the bush or sundowner drinks. Are we likely to encounter some of those amazing chefs of yours out and about?
You never know where they might pop up.
You've got something interesting there for us, eh?
Yes,
Great.
Of course.
Cool. Chef Luke, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for chatting to us.
Okay, thank you so much, Ryan.
Thanks, Luke. In a moment, we'll catch up with Anton Uriol and speak about kitesurfing in Mauritius.
Tuesday Takeover on The Viewpoint.
Okay, from one extreme to the next, my next story took me completely by surprise. In July this year, I travelled to the island of Mauritius to write an article about kitesurfing festival being held on the east coast at Palmar Beach. I've never been kitesurfing and wasn't planning on trying my hand at it. But what initially interested me was the fact that local culinary personality, Chef and Tea, was taking South African street food to the festival. If you want to read more about this, catch the November issue of Garden and Home magazine for the article I wrote about that. But the true story that grabbed me unfolded at a press conference for the festival, given by festival ambassador Anton Ariel. Anton was born in the east of France in 1984 and at 15 discovered windsurfing, appealing to his love of speed and being on the water. In 2003, he won the European Youth Championship in the Olympic board class. It was at this time that he discovered kitesurfing and in 2006 started his ranking as one of the top 3 riders in the world. He became world champion in 2010, and today Anton works in television making nature-inspired documentaries and as a digital creator. He was thus a natural fit to lead the Sea Kite Festival, hosted by Sea Mauritius Palma, now in its 3rd year. But what grabbed my attention was the sense of camaraderie between the kitesurfers, right from the get-go. I was blown away by their support of each other, young and old, newbie and world champs, and their genuine love for and appreciation of nature. They were nothing like the bros I was expecting, and we landed up spending 4 days there on Palma Beach talking about kitesurfing and all things about life. Welcome, Anton. How are you since I saw you last in Mauritius?
Hello, Ryan. I'm fine. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here with you. I'm right now in Spain, in the south of Spain, and everything is fine. The sun is shining, and everything is good.
Good to hear your voice. Anton, how did the concept of a kitesurfing festival come about, and why is it in this format rather than a kitesurfing competition?
Yes, together with the Sea Mauritius Hotel, we had the idea to really create a new festival, a new way to show kitesurfing, because we really wanted to show that it's a sport about passion and really connected to the elements, the wind, the sea, and also the fire that you've got inside, that each of us have inside us. And also always it's a beautiful sport because you start from the beach, you go on the water, and then you come back on the beach. So I always laugh, but when I kite and I have a nice session, I always say that I have a complete day because I'm in touch with all the elements.
Yeah.
And that's why we really wanted to show that our sport is beautiful because we don't burn any gas or anything to move like a motorsport.
Yeah.
It's something really pure. We just move over the sea just by the strength of the elements. The wind is the most powerful element that we use, and it connects us to nature. So that's what we wanted really to show to the public and also to all the people that we invite during this festival. And that's really the common passion that we have together. So we really wanted to have some fun, and at the same time not to only demonstrate that the professionals are here to show what their skills, that's a part of it, but we also really wanted to share our passion with the local kitesurfers. So that's really the idea, is to also enjoy the food and the vibe of the hotel, and to really be together sharing beautiful moments around this sport.
A true celebration, Anton. I think that really is the difference between having a festival versus a competition, and I think it came through on the days that we were there. The atmosphere on the beach amongst people was absolutely phenomenal, and I think that essence that you guys shared amongst each other, which I expected a way more competitive spirit between you, but that compassion and that support and that encouragement of each other, I think is what really touched me very deeply and was quite an eye-opener for me. Sea Mauritius Palma seems to really have bought into this concept of the festival. They seem to have jumped into this 3rd festival with great gusto and without sparing on the spending. They truly seem to have an alignment with the sport. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think, normally when you're a pro rider in general, you go to some events to compete against each other.
Yeah.
And together with the hotels, Mauritius, we really wanted to be among professionals, but also invite many people with different kind of passion as well, people coming like you, journalists, people coming also just to learn about kitesurfing. And that was the idea, to have no pressure at all and to really enjoy the beautiful lagoon, the winds, and also to put a little bit the east coast of Mauritius on the map. Because in Mauritius, there is a famous spot in the south of Mauritius. It's called Le Morne. There is a beautiful wave there. Yeah. And a lot of people go to Mauritius just to visit that place. But in the end, it's not only about only this place. It's also about all the island and the east coast of Mauritius, where Sea Mauritius, the hotel is. There is also a beautiful lagoon with perfect wind. And yes, it's just a perfect spot to really enjoy this sport. So once again, no pressure, just being like between us, having fun. It's like a little parenthesis in your life, it's just
it
like
really
about
is.
sharing different kind of worlds together, and then each of us could come back to our home and have nice memories, and maybe also new inspiration. That's really the idea, to inspire all of us together, because we live, everyone is living in his little country, in his little world, but sometimes when you share passions, and then new things happen. It's like if you put a seed somewhere, and then after in your life you can use it and you can make it grow inside you, and then you have maybe some new passion as well.
100%.
So that's the idea.
Just a reminder, I'm Ryan Ensign, your Tuesday Takeover guest this evening. Our number 086 000 2032. Send us a voice note on 0614 104 107 if you could keep them under 1 minute. I'm talking to Anton Ariel about the Sea Mauritius Kite Surfing Festival. Anton, my overwhelming feeling right from the beginning of the festival was what I called the brotherhood of the kite, having taken in the sense of camaraderie between all contestants and their love and appreciation for nature. Maybe share a little bit more about that with us, how you guys interact and engage with each other on this level.
Yes, as I said, maybe during the festival, I don't know if you remember, but we all have this common passion about nature, and this is really the link between all of us, that passion for the ocean in general. And, when you practice a sport that is a little bit dangerous, like kitesurfing, in reality, you always have a lot of solidarity between all the riders, either if they are professionals or not, because you know that it's kind of dangerous and you don't want to see an accident. So I think this base of the sport is really great, because it means that there is always some people watching you, always trying to see if there is no problems, if there is a kite in the air or someone has a problem, directly the other guys would run to them and help each other. And this solidarity is very important in this sport. And, you can save lives sometimes. When I ride, sometimes I go in the water, and if I see someone with a problem, I just forget about my little egoist session. I just go and help the people to come back at the beach safely. And this is important to ride in a secure way, and also to keep the good spirit, And in the end, it's all about, living a simple life with great people around, and trying to, not contaminate nature, because as we are just using the wind, we are not contaminating anything. And in the end, also, when you just play with nature, collaborate with nature, knowing that it's something very special, because every day is different. The wind can blow a little bit stronger a day or a little bit less the next day. You don't really care about the perfect condition. It's more about just going out a little bit, coming back home, feeling great, because you did a little bit of sport that is pure, and then in the end you just can do some high fives to your friends, and that's it. That's as simple as it is.
Yeah, some really great life lessons there, I think, Anton. I recall when, I forget the chap's name, but I think we had the oldest kite surfer in the world, the German guy or Swiss guy, 82 at the festival.
Yes, Klaus. Yes.
There we go. Yes.
Klaus, he was 82 years old. He's from Germany, but he's living in the Canary Islands. And it was such a pleasure to see him there, because I met him during a downwind in Morocco, Dakhla, in the south of Morocco. We did a 500 kilometers downwind last year together, and he was very impressive, because he did everything like us, and he had such a great kid spirit still in his vibrations. And I was so impressed by him that I told him to come to see Mauritius, and
Yeah.
it was great to have him among us, because that's exactly the kind of guy I would like to be when I'm like 82 years old as well. And I think that's really cool about sport. It gives you like always the good fire, the good energy.
Yeah.
And it's good with kitesurfing, but any sport in life, I think, is great.
Yeah.
It's positive for you, and it can give you wings,
100%. And I mean, he certainly wasn't lacking in the evenings when we had a party time on the beach. He was there late into the evenings. I saw him, I think, a couple of nights. I might have left sometime before him.
Yeah, it's good.
100%. Anton, as we wrap up, maybe just share what you are currently involved in, what projects you are working in as you trot the globe.
Yes, I'm still working for French television, and we are going to shoot new projects about winds, the winds on Earth. So we do a documentary about winds that have names. Like I did once a really cool documentary in South Africa about the Cape Doctor. You must know this wind. It's called the Cape Doctor because of Cape Town. And, it's very interesting because it's a way to speak about nature, but really through the wind. So we normally don't really think about it, but the wind has a huge impact on lives of the people, because the wind has an impact, for example, on the architecture of the houses you have to build if it's a really strong wind. And it has an impact on poets, on songwriters, on also just on daily life. Some days if it's really windy, maybe some people, they are not really happy, but if you think sometimes differently and have a little bit of perspective, it also makes things alive. Sometimes it's very hot and you don't have any wind at all, and as soon as the wind comes, the leaves are a little bit moving, the trees are dancing, and then everything becomes alive. And that's really cool. And that's my biggest project. That's what I'm going to shoot in the next month once again. It's called the Wind Quest.
Well, Antoine, that sounds absolutely amazing. And I hope to touch base again with you soon. Hopefully maybe before Sea Kite Festival next year. Otherwise on some wind somewhere along the globe.
Yes, that would be really fantastic because I really like your energy, Ryan.
You are listening to Nqaba Mabece on SAFM.
I'm Ryan Ensign, your Tuesday Takeover guest this evening. And Carl is still around, not to worry, I'm not taking his job, well, at least not yet. And lastly tonight, let's delve into something that is close to my heart here in South Africa, and that is heritage. We have a phenomenal country, populated with people as friendly as the African sun is bright. We also have an astounding history, sometimes a difficult space to navigate, but one that is rich and fascinating for those who are willing to see. And I've been privileged to experience some of these stories through my writing and photography. September was Heritage Month here in South Africa, but as with all these months, they sadden me. I believe we should be celebrating heritage year-round, in whatever way makes personal sense. And what better way, I suggest, than through tourism and exploring our beautiful country. Next, I'm joined by Jerry Mabena, CEO of Motsumai Tourism Group, who I'm told is the uncle of this show. They are the owner of Kruger Shalati, a luxury lodge on the historic Sabi Bridge in the Kruger National Park. A true icon of South African tourism, as Minister of Tourism Patricia de Lille puts it. The restored train carriages, positioned on the now Salati Bridge and overlooking the Sabi River, are a testament to our heritage, world-class design, and a unique commitment to community. What started in 1923 as an effort to counter the financial impact of dwindling gold reserves in the Salati River Basin, a 9-day rail-based tour of Mozambique and the Lowveld was offered, which became known as the Round in 9 tour. Today, the train may no longer traverse the bridge, as she is permanently located there, but the romance of rail travel lives on at Kruger Shalati. Hi Jerry, tell us what it is about Kruger Shalati that has so captured the public's heart. Everywhere I go, I hear people who have spent time on the bridge.
Good evening to you, Ryan, and good evening to your listeners as well. I think maybe just to start off is to say, to bring the romance of, call it steam travel or rail travel into modern society is really what we were striving for. And what we then did was instead of...
Jerry, could I just ask you to hang tight for a second? We're just trying to fix the line if you give us a second. the Kruger Shalati, as we saw Jerry out there, the Kruger Shalati is a train on the Shalati Bridge, which is now permanently located on this bridge. It's a luxury resort where you sleep and spend time you spend time. Okay, I think we are ready for Jerry now. Jerry, can we hear you? Can we?
Yeah, sorry, I think my phone shuts down at 9 o'clock.
Sorry, I think I have the same problem at 10. Sorry, Jerry, take us from the beginning there. Tell us about why the Kruger Shalati has so captured the heart of the public.
I think for us, it's really to try and move the history into contemporary society. But more than that, in South Africa, we have a great story. We've got great heritage, as you said earlier on. We've got great natural bounty as well. But I think the key thing is to curate it in a manner that can be relevant to South Africans and the rest of the world to experience it. And I think that's what really we were striving for, was to really take this great history and heritage, put it on a railway line that was actually a historical asset in a very, very historical park with the largest park, one of the largest parks in Africa, effectively. So it's kind of a story that's got a story inside of it.
Sure. I like the fact that you talk about relevance and taking something that dates back 1923, 101 years ago, and making it relevant in South Africa in 2024, that reimagining. I mean, we see it a lot in old buildings where old buildings are taken and reimagined as hotels and things like that.
Yes.
I like the idea that you are thinking along this line and in this way celebrating the heritage that is so rich here in South Africa. Sustainable tourism is key to the Kruger Shalati experience, Jerry. How do you ensure this key tenet of the approach is translated into the experience of the guest, and how do we ensure that this continues going forward?
I think for us, and I'm glad that you asked the question, how it continues to go forward, because we see tourism almost as a medium, of transformation. And in a manner that is not transformation in a typical or classical, call it BEE or political sense, but in a manner that actually it impacts communities. I think tourism allows us to do work in very poor, rural, and isolated communities. And I think what we try to do there is make sure that whatever it is that we do impacts the locals in the area that we live in. So a lot of the partnerships, the stuff that we sell in our retail shops, the activities that we do as we host our guests are all kind of curated by the local communities in there. So we actually make the product itself not just kind of an isolated entity, but it's integrated into the community where we live.
Yes, and I must actually just give this feedback to you, Jerry. When I was planning for the show today, a friend of mine sent me a message asking if I was talking about Shalati when I mentioned Train on the Bridge, and she said that she was at Shalati last weekend with a group of friends and asked me, do you guys really give back to the community like you say? Or was it just marketing speak? And I said to no, that you actually did, and I mentioned the approach that you guys have of employing from the community people that not necessarily skilled for the job. And her feedback to that was that the staff at Shalati went above and beyond, and she was so impressed by them. They had some issues with an aircon unit in one of the carriages that they were staying, and the staff that you have employed and taken out of the community and uplifted and transferred skills to managed the situation, and she's away just about every weekend. So it's nice to hear feedback like that from guests, and just well done to you and what you guys are doing.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, and I'm hoping that we'll pass the message on to the team, and we really appreciate that feedback. We are really grateful.
That's great. Jerry, maybe talk to us then about the impact of community impact on communities through this project, and how this was incorporated into the planning of the project up front, and how it still continues as we see it has.
I think there's two parts to that. One is it's too small and too little. When one speaks of impact, you're kind of thinking of something that transforms an entire village. But I think we just need to also, what's the word that I'm saying, kind of create a bit of honesty among ourselves and say that these are small steps. We are beginning to do something that we believe is transformational. And so the starting point of that for me was when we actually recruited for the opening of the hotel, and I'm still very proud of that moment, where we actually took the young people from the community, trained them for a whole year before we even opened the hotel. So that by the time we opened, they were ready to serve and they were trained and skilled. And I think it's something that ordinarily most people, when they open a product like this, they will just kind of go and recruit people who are experienced and that sort of thing. And that's not what we wanted to do.
Sure.
So that's the first part. The second one was to look for little opportunities for the local community members who do either artifacts or who do certain things. I mean, as we speak now, we procure some stuff for our retail shops from the local communities. And some of those communities, we actually train them before we actually take that product from them, so that that product is advanced from where it is to where we would like it to be. So that kind of intervention is in place, almost on an enterprise development type level.
Yeah.
And then there's one other example of two young guys who we are training as bakers, and they're about now to go off on their own and set up their own bakery and be independent of us. So, yeah.
Sure, that's quite amazing. I think that, you talk about it being on a small scale. I think it's impactful in those people's lives, and it's a start, and we've got to start somewhere, and I think you guys are making a huge impact, and well done to you guys. Lastly, Jerry, I hear you have something special planned for Christmas on that very special bridge.
Christmas is a special time for everyone, and we have an African Christmas. So our Christmases generally celebrate what we are as Africans. So we then kind of partner again with the local communities. They participate quite a lot, where we make an African Christmas. Where we bring in the choir that comes and sings and does a lot of work with our people there. Our menu is structured in a manner that it celebrates an African Christmas. And the train on the bridge, which is just around the corner for us, we create a special menu for Christmas as well. So for those who are not staying on the train, they can go off to the train on the bridge and really have a festive time of having an African Christmas. And I think while I'm at it, I mean, you can always buy a voucher, by the way, for someone and give them a Christmas present to come and stay at Chalati. They don't have to come on Christmas. They can come any other time, but it can be a lovely Christmas present.
Wonderful. Well, as we wrap up, and as Nkaba walks back into the studio, I see him glaring at me because I'm stealing.
Brajeri. Just educate our brother here on the correct pronunciation of Ngaba Mapekte, and it's good to have you on our show, Brajeri.
Thanks, Puti. Thank you.
I was waiting for that one. I'm surprised it's taken a whole hour. I'm a little bit disappointed, to be honest.
Once at the beginning, I thought I'd let it slide, but I'm like, actually, no, it's not happening. It's not happening. This is not me. Mr. Mabena, thank you for being here. I mean, obviously, you are also a friend of the show. Lesego calls you the resident uncle. You have a great story to tell with that Chalati thing. And I think you might have even undersold it a bit, because I've had the great pleasure of being there. And I think Ryan's question is important when you talk about heritage and the institutions of the country, which are not necessarily always going to be political symbols. And just as important, heritage is not a September-based thing. Tourism is an opportunity to showcase South African heritage 24/7. And of the many stories, I mean, I'm just thinking back at the launch of the book there. That book surely needs more prominent households owning it, and places of formal business and social exchanges, because it goes to the heart of many a South African story, which in its symbol is now the train on the bridge in the Kruger National Park, which symbolizes communities coming together. It also symbolizes development, transformation, a true South African heritage, and luxury, and things that everybody who goes there at whatever level can claim for themselves, for yourselves. You must get that story out there. I just wonder how else we can have that story out there, but that's a national story.
No, and I think you're absolutely spot on. I mean, if my shareholders are listening to me, I'm sure I'm going to lose my job tomorrow and you're going to be hired. But no. I think the bigger issue really is, I don't know how many people have come to me and said, yes, we saw the launch of the book. It's a great concept of telling the story, but I think it needs to be out there. So I think it's something that we need to look at and explore and see how we can tell that story a bit wider. I think we have written it down, which is wonderful, but I think we need to now spread it out there. So, and I'm glad that you raised it, because I think you are one of probably about 15 or 20 people that have come to me and said exactly the same thing as you have.
No, the Kruger Shalati train on the bridge is a good story to tell and one that should be told. But don't let me take over the show because it is Ryan's show. I just interjected because I've got myself a new name.
I like this takeover part of the show.
It makes a lot of sense.
Oh, you're not coming back to Takeover. It's done. You've done it.
He's sneaking as the guest now.
Exactly. That's the best he can ever be. He'll only ever be a guest from now on.
No,
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you,
so
Jerry.
much.
Thank you for your time, and really hats off to you guys and what you're doing there. It's nice to
No,
hear.
we really appreciate it, and we appreciate these opportunities to you and the team there of giving us, every little opportunity to tell our story. We really don't take it lightly, and thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Jerry. I'm Ryan Ensslin. It's been a rather fulfilling experience being your Tuesday Takeover guest this evening. The host is back.
The host has a name.
The host,
Ngaba,
is back. There
so
we
you
go.
were lazy. You were being naughty.
No, I've been educated.
Oh,
I've tapped into
that's
my
a smart
spirit.
comeback.
There we go.
That's a smart comeback. Quirky.
And thank you so much
Well
for
done.
having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the time and thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for respecting the platform. Thank you for bringing in these guests. Thank you for opening the platform to a wider audience as well and bringing in different stories. That was nice. It was light. It was heartfelt and it was beautiful. It was like a melody. It really was.
Thank you.
Well done, man. Let's take a break. After the break, of course, it's the Legends Lounge. And our guest this evening is a leading human rights lawyer. She's currently an executive director of the Foundation for Human Rights in South Africa and, of course, served once as a member of the TRC Commission between the years 96 and 2001.